Hi, all of you wonderful scuba divers out there. Welcome to the Scuba Diver Magazine podcast, where I break down the latest scuba diving news and just things that have piqued my interest over the previous week. The podcast is sponsored by the scuba diving giant Scuba Pro, who manufacture a wide range of diving equipment for entry-level scuba divers experiencing the underwater world for the first time to advanced technical divers and professional scuba divers as well. I'll talk more about Scuba Pro later on in this podcast. This week on the podcast, a recreational diver has found a ridiculous number of bronze coins. They're like Roman age coins, and he found like 50,000 of them just whilst out on a dive. The captain of the Conception liveaboard has been found guilty in court and is due to be sentenced. And a recent diver death in Scapa has been found to be caused by a boat strike. I'm a little bit grumpy this week because I had to cancel my ticket to Dema because I've still got this chest infection. So I'm just going to have to catch up with all the Dema news from where I am at home whilst coughing away. But yeah, looking at news, the big news story was last weekend. An observant recreational scuba diver has come across a vast deposit of large bronze coins dating back to the age of the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great. And now it's hoped that the remains of the ship from which they came from can also be located. They basically found all of these coins, but they've yet to find the actual shipwreck. The unnamed diver had reported seeing the coins in a shallow sandy area not far from shore off Sardinia's northeastern coast, and his report sparked off a huge underwater investigation the following day. Funny that, when you find lots of important artifacts, involving the Underwater Archaeological Unit of the Ministry's Superintendency of Archaeology, Fine Arts and Landscape, Sardinia's Cultural Heritage Protection Unit, and a number of Carabinieri and Fire Brigade diving units, together with state and financial police and port authorities. So the dive teams identified two sets of coins in a large sandy area that they believe might have served to protect any wreck remains even from 1700 years ago. Estimated on the basis of weight alone, the hoard is thought to contain between 30,000 and 50,000 Roman coins. All of the coins examined so far have been in exceptionally and rare state of conservation, with only 4 of them damaged, though still legible. Large numbers of amphoras of African and, in smaller numbers, Asian origin have also been identified. The coins, known as Folly or Follis, I'm not entirely sure, have been dated to between 324, the year of the death of Roman Emperor Licinius, and 340 AD. So they basically cover the reign of Constantine the Great and his son Constantine II. The two Constantines had attempted to introduce bigger bronze coins called centestinionales during this period, but none of these have been found, according to the ministry. The smaller foley examined came from almost all of the mints of the Roman Empire active during the period, with the exception of Antioch, Alexandria, and Carthage. It's not made exactly clear when the coins were found or how many exactly have been recovered yet, but restoration and conservation operations are now being carried out. SABIP Director General Luigi LaRocca said the treasure found in the waters represents one of the most important discoveries of numismatic finds in recent years. He added that the discovery highlights once again the richness and importance of the archaeological heritage, that the depths of our seas, crossed by men and goods since the most ancient times, still guard and conserve. Yeah, there's still a lot of shiny stuff down there to be found, stating that the discovery represented an extraordinary but also very fragile heritage, constantly threatened by natural phenomena and human action. LaRocca said that the ministry's archaeological units would employ extraordinary recovery and conservation methodologies and techniques to protect and investigate the site and its contents. So just a diver out on a dive, just find something shiny. This is kind of what every diver, or I imagine every diver, kind of dreams about. Just cruising around this like sandy area, and that kind of looks like a coin, and you kind of sweep the sand aside and it's even more coins, and yeah, they turn out to be pretty valuable. I don't know whether the diver's getting any kind of like compensation or anything. They obviously aren't being allowed to keep them. I imagine they may have pocketed one or two, but hey, yeah, it is nice to find something shiny when you're on a scuba dive. I think the most I've ever found is like a whole bunch of snorkels from a snorkeling boat that were just falling off someone's head. And did find a weight pouch once. That was quite nice. It had some lead inside. Lead's always useful. Jerry Boylan, the captain of the Californian diving liveaboard the Conception that caught fire and sank, killing 34 people 4 years ago, has been found guilty of criminal negligence. The captain, the first to abandon ship and the only person charged in connection with what was the worst maritime disaster in recent US history, faces up to 10 years in prison when he is due to be sentenced on the 8th of February next year. The verdict came on the 6th of November at the end of a 10-day trial presided over by US District Judge George H. Wu. The jury found Boylan guilty on one count of the federal offense of seaman's manslaughter, a pre-Civil War statute conceived to hold captains and crew to account for maritime disasters. The case has been investigated by the FBI, the Coast Guard's Investigative Service, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, that's ATF, according to the U.S. Attorney's office in Los Angeles. The Santa Barbara-based 22-meter Conception had been anchored off Santa Cruz Island in the Channel Islands following a long weekend of scuba diving on the 2nd of September 2019. The captain and 4 of his 5 crew had been asleep in the wheelhouse when a fire broke out. Boylan, who's 69, had led the way in escaping overboard, followed by the crew. The other crew member had been sleeping below with the 33 guests in the single bunk room. With limited means of exit, they had been woken by the fire, as shown by mobile phone footage, but died trapped in the room. Boylan had been responsible for the safety and security of the vessel. He was the captain, and the jury concluded that his multiple failings constituted misconduct, gross negligence, and inattention to his duties, leading to the victims' deaths. Apart from being the first to abandon ship while the passengers were still alive and trapped below, Boylan had failed to organise a night watch, to conduct sufficient fire drills and crew training, to provide firefighting directions to crew after the fire had started, to use available equipment including a fire axe and extinguisher that had been to hand in the wheelhouse, to perform any life-saving or firefighting activities even though he was uninjured, or to use the boat's public address system to direct passengers and crew. The Coast Guard Investigative Service Director Jeremy Gauthier said, "In the Court of Justice, a guilty verdict echoes the collective grief and loss of 34 souls that perished in this tragedy. It serves as a solemn reminder of the great duty a master owes his passenger and crew. This verdict stands as a testament to our commitment to seek justice, hold accountable those responsible, and honour the memory of those lost." Until sentence, Boylan remains free on $75,000 bail. U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada says this ship captain's unpardonable cowardice led to the deaths of 34 lives on Labor Day 2019. As the jury found, this tragedy could have been avoided had Mr. Boylan simply performed the duties he was entrusted to carry out. We hope that today's verdict brings some solace and closure to the victims' loved ones. As reported on DiverNet in September, an unpublished ATF report revealed by the LA Times indicated that the fire had originated in a large, highly combustible plastics rubbish bin, although it remained conjecture that the source of ignition could have been improperly discarded smoking materials. Apart from the criminal case against Boylan, multiple civil suits have been brought by families of the dead against Conception operator Truth Aquatics and its owners Glenn and Dana Fritzler, as well as the US Coast Guard, accused of allowing Truth Aquatics to continue operating for years despite the substandard safety precautions aboard its vessels. Within days of the Conception disaster, the Fritzlers had moved to minimise any possible compensation payments to victims' families by enacting the Limitation of Liability Act, which was set up in 1851 before boats were covered by insurance, and it's It's basically a statute that allows the owner of a vessel to have any damage claims arising from a maritime casualty to be limited to only the value of the vessel and the freight earned at the end of the voyage, which really restricts how much money the families can be entitled to. And I think one of the clauses is that because they were unaware of any like safety issues going forwards, and because the boat was covered under a grandfather clause because it was built in a certain time, it didn't have to meet like the most current modern safety requirements. This has all since changed. The US Coast Guard has upped their requirements. But it's all kind of, just trying to get out of this, that, and the other, or, technically because we were covered by this and all sorts. But yeah, it's interesting to follow this court case, and the captain has been found guilty, and in February we'll see his sentencing. Closer to home, the UK government's Marine Accident Investigation Branch, the MAIB, has launched a probe into the death of wreck diver Paul Smith in Scapa Flow on the morning of the 28th of September. And it has now emerged that he had been struck whilst underwater by a diving liveaboard. A Royal Navy dive team recovered the 70-year-old Greater Manchester diver's remains near the Orkney Island of Carver on the 16th of October, and almost 3 weeks after he had embarked on a morning dive on the German battleship, the SMS Markgraf. He was named another 9 days later. MAIB, in its list of current investigations, has revealed that what it describes as a passing support vessel, identified as the dive boat MV Carrion, struck a recreational diver making a underwater decompression stop, resulting in one fatality. The incident and its aftermath was reported on Divernet, but official announcements had not explained why a major air and sea search involving Coast Guard and lifeboat teams and local boats had been halted at the end of the day of the incident, but not resumed the following day. Smith's death had initially been subject to a police investigation. The well-known 24-metre liveaboard Carrion is operated by Kirkwall-based skipper and technical diver John Thornton, who was one of the first to offer dive charters in Scapa Flow. MAIB investigations conclude with a published report, but there is no indication of the time frame for its completion. And I think I did read on the on a diving forum that John had announced his retirement, but then I think I saw a later post saying that he'd postponed it. So something's going on, and we'll have to sort of follow the MAIB's investigation to see what they conclude. Looking at dive equipment, I have noticed a couple offers this or so far in the lead up to Black Friday. Obviously, there's going to be something interesting from Black Friday, but beforehand, I noticed that Scuba Pro, today's sponsor, has a free octopus offer. They seem to have brought it back, and this is selected retailers. Obviously, I'm not sure sort of where exactly the restrictions are, but get a free R105 octopus or a S270 octopus with the purchase of a selected Scuba Pro regulator system online or at participating Scuba Pro retailers. Offer valid until December 31st, 2023, while stocks last. Choose from the regulator systems. So we got the Mark 25 Evo with the S620, the Mark 19 Evo with an S620, Mark 25 Evo with the D420, the Mark 19 with the D420. Systems with the R105, we got the Black Tech Mark 19 with the G260 Carbon Black Tech, that's quite a funky regulator. The Mark 25 with the Carbon Black Tech G260, and then the standard versions, as well as the Mark 25 S600 and the Mark 17 S600. I didn't know they still made the Mark 17. Are they? I think they're discontinuing that. I could be wrong. But yeah, basically, if you remember the summer offer, looks to be very much the same as that. just have a quick read through the T's and C's. Available at participating Scuba Pro retailers and on scubapro.com. Promotion may not be available in all regions. Limited to 1 free octopus per order. So yeah, if you need a new set of regulators, check them out. Scuba Pro do make some very nice regulators. Sticking with regulators, I think this is more of a UK thing, but again, it could be in different regions. You just have to check with your local Apeks dealer. But Apeks have launched a trade-in deal that allows you to get 30% off a new set of eco-friendly OSHA regulators when you bring in your older regulators into a participating retailer from now until the end of December this year, 2023. The great thing is that you can trade in any brand of regulator in any condition. Cool. I like that. Define regulator in any condition as well. Anyway, the Apeks manufacturing plant in Blackburn is fully ISO 14001 compliant and will recycle as much of your old regulator as possible. And then, yeah, you get 30% off of their OSHA, which is basically the XL4. But each section is made to be as eco-responsible as possible, from the plastics to the bronze. Not the bronze. Where did bronze come from? The brass is made from eco-friendly brass. And just everything. And yeah, they are a nice set of regulators. I've got a set downstairs, and they're very lightweight, but they're still cold water rated. So yeah, they're a solid all rounder, and yeah, nice and compact. And yeah, you can get 30% off. So yeah, just find your local Apeks dealer. Just double check that they're involved, and yeah, if you've got some old regulators, you can get some money off a new set. Last week I mentioned that Santi had teased a new undersuit, or at least the women's version of the Kango undersuit, and this week, yes, they have released the women's version of the Kango. Although when I first saw it on Instagram, they've got a weird like font or styling to their to the Kango like logo on it, and it would have taken me. Well, I don't think I ever would have come up with Kango. I thought they had a different name for the women's version, and they didn't actually type out Kango. They just showed the like typeset that they used for the logo of that branding. And yeah, you can, once you know what it says, you can work out, oh, okay, that's supposed to be a K, that's supposed to be an A, and then the NGO does actually make sense. But hey, yeah, just a new women's shaped undersuit, and yeah, it looks very smart. Lots of pockets. Pockets are always useful, and an offset zipper is always nice, and it's basically a full body onesie. So yeah, something to keep you warm whilst diving, and in between dives. I often wear my Santi undersuit if I don't feel like putting the heating on. So, as I mentioned at the start of the podcast, I'm going to talk briefly about Scuba Pro. Scuba Pro was founded in 1963 by Gustave Delaveil and Dick Bonin, and in 2023 they see their 60th anniversary, and Scuba Pro is stronger than ever. Today, Scuba Pro is a global brand, and you'll find them around any dive site or dive boat because scuba divers around the world just trust Scuba Pro as a brand. I personally have never had a problem recommending any Scuba Pro dive equipment to anyone asking. I used it whilst I was scuba diving and teaching, and so did all of my students as well. They were using Scuba Pro equipment, and no matter where you are in the world, it won't be hard to find a service center because they're located all over the world. The divers are Scuba Pro's inspiration. Every product, every enhancement, every decision, everything that they do is designed to make your diving experience the best that it can be. Because without this blue planet of divers eager to explore, their innovations mean nothing. And Scuba Pro want to thank you for being part of their journey and for for being their inspiration for the future. They are so excited to share their latest innovations with you. The best is yet to come. A few big things this year have been the Ulex range of wetsuits that use a plant-based foam instead of neoprene, which is better for the planet, and the S-Tech fins, which are a more technical focused fin, a bit of a hybrid between the Seawing Nova and the Jet fin. One really cool feature is that you can actually adjust their buoyancy by adding or removing little metal plates in the fin before the dive. But for more information, head over to scubapro.com. That was about it as far as new dive equipment. So let's have a look at some Ask Mark questions. Let's see if there's anything short that I can get through. Rob Wesler says, question regarding refs. My girlfriend had asthma, and while she's been cleared to dive by several doctors, she's extremely sensitive to breathability on regulators, particularly when we get to 60 plus feet. She's PADI Advanced Open Water. Price is not really a concern, so we're looking for the best breathing regulator. Any suggestions would be welcomed. I mean, one of the nicest breathing regulators that I've used was the X-Deep NX 700, or is that, I forget the name of it because it has got one of these weird names. But yeah, the X-Deep regulator, it's had some trouble. It's been recalled once or twice because of it's got a very unique design. But the first time I breathed from that regulator, you're like, ooh, it's like silk breathing from this regulator. So that was very nice. Breathability on regulators. Scuba Pro always have nice breeze, as do Maris. My very first set of regulators was a Maris Abyss. Lovely regulator from that metal body. So that helps with the like humidity. It helps to prevent dry mouth when you have a metal second stage. So you've got like the Scuba Pro A700, which can help with that, or they don't call it the Abyss anymore. Gosh, truth, what's the Maris ones? It's the Atlas, I think, is a metal body second stage. Otherwise, a lot of the side exhaust, the real like pneumatic ones with a servo valve, they really pack a punch. Is the SXS the Maris one? Is that does that have a servo valve? I can't remember. I haven't actually played with it yet. Talk about the second stage. It's got the DFC, Dynamic Flow Control, which is always nice. Constant airflow at any depth. Yeah, most regulators do that. But the Poseidon Extreme and the Hollis, what do they call it? S something 500. That's those two, and the Oceanic Omegas. I think they're on the Omega 3 if they still make them. I used to dive Omega 2s when I was teaching. And yeah, they can certainly pack a punch, and they're a nice breathe. But yeah, just go for some of the nicer regulators. But the ones that really spring to mind, the X-Deep one, the NX 700 LS 200 or whatever it's called, that has a really nice breathe on it. Atomic, they've always made really nice regulators. So like the ST1 if you're diving in colder waters, or the T3 if you want something a little bit lighter, a bit more exotic. They have sort of nice breathing. Yeah, Scuba Pro always make nice regulators, and Maris as well. But something with a dial of breath on the side will definitely help, and maybe even a full face mask, because then she can breathe through nose and mouth. The Ocean Reef full face masks are always very nice. Brandon Meadows says, hey Mark, really appreciate you going over the options in the video for travel diving. I was curious if you have some recommendations for a carry-on setup for travel diving. I know you've done a video about travel diving and a checked bag, but was curious if you have a minimalist recommendation to be able to carry on between a backpack and carry-on suitcase. I really appreciate any advice here. You can pack most things. Regulators are pretty easy to pack in your carry-on. The fins are usually the one of the largest. Apart from your BCD and your fins tend to be the largest things. Fins nowadays, you get quite a few travel fins like Scuba Pro Go Travel and like Aqualung Storm fins. They're shorter, they're more compact, they're designed to fit in a backpack. You can get the new Scuba Pro Sea-Wing Supernova fins, and they disconnect in the middle so they can pack into a bag that much easier. If you're just diving a backplate and a wing setup, it's really easy just to pack that in a carry-on, especially if you have like either a soft backplate, or you can get some minimal ones like the Tech line. They have some real stripped down backplates. You might get some quizzical looks by the X-ray guy at customs, but as long as you can just explain away, oh yeah, it's a scuba diving backplate. Okay, they look at the harness and all that, but it's just nylon webbing and some like D-rings and stuff. And yeah, with my set, with my travel set, I actually have some titanium sliding D-rings. So one, they're a little bit more compact, whereas standard 2-inch D-ring sticks out quite a lot. These are quite close to the body. You don't need a tri-glider with them. And yeah, they're sliding, so you can relocate them really easily. And yeah, they're incredibly light. And the quick release buckle, I usually swap that out for an aluminium one, or even just a plastic one. I think I've got an old Scuba Pro plastic quick release buckle, just with my aluminium backplate. And yeah, that really does help to reduce the weight of everything. But yeah, I reckon you could get everything into a backpack nowadays. Mask, fins, regulator, BCD, dive computer is pretty easy. You just strap that on your wrist. Even if it is a large screen dive computer, so what? What are they going to do? Stop you because you've got a large computer on your wrist? That's kind of it. You're not bringing your lead or anything, so there's not a great deal they can do. And you're only going to be wearing the same t-shirt and board shorts, depending on where you're going, so you don't need that many clothes. So yeah, you'll be surprised at just how much you can travel without having to actually check something in. Mario Schmidt asks, additional question about prescription lenses in dive masks. Treat your backup mask the same way as your primary mask. I've been taught that well. What's your opinion on prescription lenses in the backup mask, especially in terms of being the best backup mask for me versus being the best backup for my buddy as well? I've never really concerned, unless your prescription is so... it's not the best word, but debilitating that you, even if you have a standard mask on, you still cannot see. Unless your prescription is that bad, I just use a standard mask, because chances are you're going to be donating to someone else. In all of my experience, I've donated my mask to other divers more than I've needed it myself. And yeah, if you have a prescription in that, granted that their eyes will be dry, but if they have a prescription in, it is really going to screw with them. So I probably wouldn't bother with the expense of fitting a prescription, unless if you were handed a blank standard non-prescription mask, you still couldn't see underwater, because at that point you might as well just not put a mask on and just rely on your buddy or your skills to get you out of the water with your eyes shut, or at least squinted in the salt water. No, I wouldn't bother putting prescription lenses in a backup mask. It seems a bit excessive and unnecessary, unless you really require it. JMK says, what fins would you recommend for recreational diving in Scotland? At 5'2", I feel some fins are as long as I am tall. Would I find it easier with shorter fins? Maybe. I mean, longer fins give you a certain amount of stability in the water because you're that much bigger. But most divers are transitioning more towards like shorter fins nowadays anyway. You see a lot of the like Apeks RK3 fins, the new Scuba Pro Sea-Wing Supernovas. They're a lot shorter. They still have the power, but for confined spaces, they're much more convenient. And yeah, like shuffling around on the deck, you'll probably find it a little bit easier. I just personally prefer them. They're a bit easier to pack away. The vented fins tend to be a lot stronger, so less likely to bend and break. So yeah, it's probably worth sort of looking at shorter fins. I wouldn't go crazy short. You can go for like swim fins, which are you'll often see like SAR, like search and rescue fins, which are really short. They're more designed so that you can walk around in them and get a bit of extra propulsion in the water, but no, they're not really worth it unless you are, literally, I need to get out of the water and go for a run whilst still wearing the fins. No, it is just look for vented fins, so your Scuba Pro jet fins, your Apeks RK3s and the like. Something fairly short would be fine, and but I don't think I've ever sort of had it where your height has been a dictating force for what fins or what length of fins you're diving. But yeah, you won't find them any worse, put it that way. They won't affect your diving in a negative way, having shorter fins. Toby Tay 141 says, I just want to know, where is the best place to shop for dive gear online in England, as there aren't many dive shops in my local area. I mean, I've had good experiences with a few. Mike's was very quick and efficient. I'm not a huge fan of certain sections of their website, but I think that's mainly because I came from Simply Scuba, so I've been very indoctrinated into how the Simply Scuba website worked. So transitioning to other websites, I do get frustrated that it doesn't have certain features. But yeah, I've ordered from them, and it turns out very quickly and nicely packaged as well. The same with Aquanauts. It's quite hard to be a bad online dive store today with like Trustpilot, Google reviews and other review sites where customers can report poor service. One thing I would say is when you're shopping online today, it's very easy to get caught out and end up buying equipment from a foreign store, even though everything's in English, everything's in British pounds. Before I place an order online anywhere for scuba equipment or something else, I always check the like contact us or the about us page and look for a UK address or phone number, just so that I know like where it's coming from, because I've been stung before. Everything looks fine. It's all in English and it's all in local currency, and you place the order, and then hang on, it's been like 3 or 4 days and I haven't heard anything, and or it's been dispatched, and yeah, a week later it still hasn't arrived. It's being shipped from, I have no idea which country. So just double check where things are coming from. Because just because it has like .co.uk in the URL doesn't mean it's coming from England. But yeah, Mike's is my usual go-to at the moment, and they have decent stocking. They've got 2 locations now. They got where is it, Chiswick, the main store, and then they have a warehouse outside of London where they ship orders from. So yeah, they're a decent setup, and touch wood, I haven't had a bad experience with them, and they got enough of the big brands. I think that's it. It is really just, as much as I do like to support my local dive centre, I do visit them, especially for airfills and whatnot. It's quite hard to get an airfill over the internet. That's usually my first port of call, but they only have a couple of brands. Granted, they're good brands, but when you want something specific, if they don't have an account with that brand, then they just can't get it in. So you do have to sort of find them online. But yeah, as with anything, buying anything online nowadays, you do have to do a bit of due diligence, and just have a quick snoop around, like Trustpilot and all that kind of stuff. Double check it is a kosher website. But yeah, you're pretty safe with mics and yeah, Aquanauts. I bought a few bits and bobs from Aquanauts. I think they're in the southwest, and yeah, always sort of very professional. Everything turns up on time, very early and well packaged. Yeah, can't fault them neither. And that's it for the podcast. So yeah, Dema week is upon us. So keep your eyes out on social media for any exciting things. We do have sort of others going to. From Scuba Diver magazine, we are going out to Dema. It's just I have to stay at home and fix this cough. But hopefully they're going to send me some interesting things. Hopefully some pictures and videos of something exciting. I did see that is it Avilo and Scuba Pro are doing something, which is quite an interesting team up. Avilo is the one where they're basically replacing your BCD with a like neutral buoyancy kind of system, more similar to what they use on submarines to adjust buoyancy. So you don't have a traditional inflator and a bag of air, which is kind of interesting that they're teaming up with Scuba Pro. So that will be quite interesting to see sort of what comes out of that. Otherwise, yeah, I'm just going to do as much of the usual like Dema research from home, seeing what I can get. And yeah, if there's anything shiny or new, I'll report it as soon as possible. But yeah, remember to check out today's sponsor, Scubapro.com. Most of you will have heard of Scuba Pro, big brand. They make lots of exciting new equipment. And yeah, here in the UK, and probably somewhere in Europe as well. I don't think the offer extends to the United States, but it's always worth checking. They actually have a like promo section on the Scuba Pro website, scubapro.com. So head over to there, see if there are any sort of local events, and yeah, the lead up to Black Friday as well. See if you can get any sort of special offers. It's usually before a lot of the big retailers do, like for the entire month of November, not just the actual day of Black Friday, because they're trying to sell through stuff. So if you want to grab yourself a bargain, do a bit of hunting. And next week's podcast, I'll see if I can find anything, if anything's been announced. But yeah, otherwise head over to our website, scubadivermag.com. Check out our latest news and gear reviews. Thank you for listening, everybody, and of course, safe diving.